Hello everyone. In this video, we will be discussing the interrelation between language change and gender. As you are all aware of this fact that language change as well as linguistic variation, everything is sensitive to gender. Like many other social changes, languages also have the parameter called gender while it changes or while it varies from one variety to the other variety. Sometimes women innovate and spread language change while sometimes men do so. So every change has different parameters or different choices, whether it will be created and spread by women or it will be created and spread by men. It depends on the specific linguistic change. So there cannot be a generalized pattern. Women tend to be associated with changes towards both prestige and vernacular norms, whereas men more often introduce vernacular changes. So sometimes women tend to have a linguistic change which makes a form more prestigious or makes a form more vernacular. So women have both the tendencies towards the opposite directions. But men are mostly associated with the vernacular form of linguistic change. So they tend to bring out changes which more sound like vernacular. Here are a few examples. Let's have a look at that. Gosset, who was a French linguist, once decided to study the dialect of Charme. This is a dialect of French, and this dialect of French, Charme, was spoken in a small remote village in Switzerland. He chose Charme because he thought the dialect would have little or no variation, but in fact, his study actually ended up as a study of sound change. So initially he thought that there won't be many changes or variations, but he found that this kind of dialect like Charme has many sound changes within the standard variety of the language and then the Sarmi dialect. He also found that the young people were using new pronunciation. This is as expected because younger people tend to use more new formations or pronunciations. And he also found that among the people of the same age, women are leading the changes. In the speech of the over 40s, only women used some of the new variants to be identified. This is very interesting because in this case, women were leading the change towards new pronunciation. Another example is found in this experiment. Women in Ucieda. This is a very small village near Spain. In Spain near its provincial capital called Santander. So in this village, women are leading change towards Castilian Spanish and introducing prestige variants to the Usieda speech. So in this case, instead of opposite to the Gosset's experiment, in this case, women were leading changes towards the prestigious variant. And what was the prestigious variant? It was the Castilian Spanish. In this case, men have been forced to look outside the village to find wives, and then many other, this kind of marital bonding happened between them. And though women had come from other villages to stay in Uceda, but they tend to speak Castilian Spanish because they thought that that variety of Spanish is more prestigious. Then We have the Martha's Vineyard experiment by Labov already. We are introduced to that. In this case, it provides example of a man leading the change. So this is a complete opposite of Gosset's study on Charme dialect of Swiss and you say the study on Castilian Spanish. In Martha's Vineyard, the change was led by men. It provides an example of men leading the change as described in the experiment on, already we have studied this. It was the fishermen who led the change to a more centralized pronunciation of the certain vowels. We already know what kind of change they have triggered. This change involved the revitalization of an older, more conservative pronunciation which belonged to the vernacular form. And that is why we are saying that men were leading the change. Okay. Then next example comes from the upper working class men are leading a sound change away from the received pronunciation of the standard British in Norwich. Here also men were leading the change. So in the first two examples, we find that women were leading, and in the second two examples, last two examples, we find that men are leading the changes. So which change, which form will change, which gender will initiate, which gender will spread, all these things are depends on the fact that who is exposed to what kind of variety of a sociolinguistic behavioral pattern. So here are some examples. You can think of your own dialect or language or what kind of changes they are taking place and relate to your own examples. There are certainly some exceptions. Let's see. First, women may also introduce vernacular changes to a community. It's not that women only tend to use the prestigious form only, but they also tend to use the vernacular change. And while they doing that, they also bring those changes into, and those changes get gradually diffused to the community. Secondly, there are communities where women are not leading linguistic change in any direction. Sometimes women are more conservative in nature, so they don't want any change to happen, and they try to retain the older form. And they are less prone to changes, whereas men in those societies do lead the changes or linguistic changes. In fact, a generalized statement is found in many sociolinguistic studies that women retain more linguistic features than men, while men are subject to more variations and changes. This is also because in traditional society, everywhere in the world, men are, they are more mobile, in the sense that they go out of their village, they go for their job hunting or many other reasons, basically for their livelihood. So they go out of their own birthplace and then move around, so they get more exposure. But that is a traditional view. Nowadays, in modern societies, even in ultra modern societies, that is not the case. Every boundaries of gender and social behavior, these have dissolved. Okay, but that's a statement which was given long years back. Now here are a few statements to conclude. The generalization about women leading change towards the standard dialect applies only where women play some role in public social life. That means, as I said, why in traditional viewpoint men were supposed to bring out linguistic changes because they are mobile, but in uh, in uh, in contemporary public social life, women also take part in societal activity. They also are mobile. So in those scenarios, women also play a very important role. In fact, in Iran and India, For instance, these are actually properly studied experiments. These are two examples where Muslim women's speech does not follow the Western pattern. So they are more conservative, they are more into themselves, they do not mingle with many people, so their linguistic mobility is restricted in terms of their their exposure. That is why their pattern of social behavior, linguistic behavior, is not does not fit into the Western pattern, which has been speculated by the authoritarian books or articles or many other works on social linguistics. In these places, the status of women is relatively fixed, and there is no motivation for them to lead linguistic change. There is no motivation because there is no need. They don't talk to, or they don't mingle or mix up with people from other regions, because they are confined to their own boundaries. That is why they cannot lead any change, be it linguistic or be it any social behavior. So it will not lead them anywhere socially. So they are more refrain from any kind of uh, linguistic or other societal changes. In these societies, as we have already discussed, women do not lead linguistic innovation in any direction. So these are few concluding remarks. So you can have a better idea of what kind of intricacies have developed, and what kind of uh, patterns were shown by other sociolinguistic studies. And here are a few relevant parts you should read to grasp a few more ideas. And here are the list of pages from Janet Holmes. You read 223 to 2, just 3 pages. Then from Dictionary of Sociolinguistics, which I will supply to you very soon after your test one. Then this is an interesting fact appearing in your textbook. Genderlect. No, this term appears on in Dictionary of Sociolinguistics. The word genderlect, this means a constellation of linguistic features associated either with female or male speaker. So if a certain form has a uh, distinctive feature from the other gender, then it's a genderlect. You may dig deep into your own linguistic community's behavioral pattern and see if genderlect also appears or exists in your language. There is another term called sexism. So there are intricate behavior of the language itself, that certain morphemes, certain words, or certain taboo concepts are associated just with male or just with female. Similarly, there are certain words which are used by uh, female or used by male. So for female, for male, or by female, by male. So these are some intricacies of gender linguistic behavior. Then Wardo's book on an introduction to sociolinguistics, please read chapter 12 entirely to get a better overview of gender linguistic interface. Thank you very much.